We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Tuesday night, and it's Liam Kennedy. God, that's like the old days, Liam.
And I was just saying that, yeah, I said that on Twitter. I look a right clip, yeah. I've literally been running in and out of the house, getting kids to swimming, to and from. Honestly, I'm a clip. But
see, when your kids get older, mate, you get all that, you get all the paid back eventually, mate. You just enjoy it.
I bloody hope so.
As always, we've got an hour to chat about Newcastle United. We'll be talking transfers as well. I think that's what we probably get most traction on these days because people are so excited about the transfer window opening. And let's start just before I go to the questions on Twitter, first and foremost. Yankuba Minte signed yesterday, loaned out now to Feyenoord. He'll do his paperwork on the 1st of July, Liam. But Newcastle, carrying on where they've left off, really, by investing in youth. And as we know, they will be investing in the first team as well.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? It's like in Dan Ashworth we trust is the way I think you've got to sort of judge that first signing. A couple of really interesting points about it. He's not been sent back to Denmark, which is interesting for an 18-year-old. Hasn't been pitched somewhere like maybe, I don't know, French second division or Belgium. He's just been thrown straight into Eredivisie and at the team that won it last season, who'll be in pot 1 for the Champions League draw on August the 31st, which shows in many ways that they obviously see him as a first team player next season, really, because there isn't really a middle ground there for him to step up in terms of loans, I would imagine. I think he's pretty much, that's it. He'll play there, and if he does well, he'll be in the first team squad next season. And it's one of those signings that it has Ashworth's marks all over it. He's made a lot of successful signings for Brighton, and he's obviously building up that really deep and knowledgeable scouting and transfer savvy base of representatives all over Europe, all over this country, South America, everywhere. And I think it's the type of thing I've mentioned on the show many times before. It's probably the type of approach that really won't, this type of approach may bear fruit very quickly. But the medium term of it, like they're bringing players in to fill that gap. And I see this signing as a player almost too good for 23s, not quite ready for first team. There'll be a lot of those bridge signings made, I would imagine. And sometimes it takes a few years. But I think the real groundwork that's gone in, which is at a younger level as well, probably not be seeing the fruits of that labour for around 4 or 5 years. But it's really heartening and pleasing to know that those foundations are being put in. Foundations that let's not even like look back to the last terrible era. I would say let's go even further back. Even into the John Hall era and things like that. That for far too long, this football club really hasn't valued the players that it could potentially produce from underneath its own nose within the area. And I think it's good to see that those foundations have been put in place. And I would imagine we'll see a little bit of a conveyor belt coming at Newcastle United probably over the next 10 years. And I think it's really positive, really positive.
Yeah, okay, that's the first one through the door, and we'll see what happens moving forward. We've done an in-depth show for the weekend with Ben Jacobs. We've gone through Barry Hogan's list, which is over 100 players that we're being linked with now. Try to make the best of of that list and see how many he feels are genuine. Makes an interesting show. That'll be on Saturday. Okay, Nathan was first up on Twitter. He says, lads, what are your thoughts on the Premier League potentially bringing in a wage cap, and do you think it will happen? Liam?
No idea. I'm going to be brutally honest with you, I've no idea. In the richest league in the world that really is built on its financial prowess, I'd be surprised if there was something like that brought in, but come back on if there's reasoning to it, then maybe, who knows.
I've often said a wage cap wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, when you hear, globally, ridiculous amounts of money getting paid out to players, where, there's countries struggling to live, and you're hearing footballers getting, £250,000 a week in wages. I mean, something needs to stop somewhere. In fact, I think that was probably one of my editorials in the fanzine 25, 30 years ago. The bubble has to burst something, but it still hasn't burst, Liam.
No, it hasn't. And I think if you go back to the weekend, Manchester City would never have won a European Cup / Champions League had money not been, and the Premier League not encouraged the exponential growth of wages, of football clubs, of transfer fees. Chelsea, to the same token, wouldn't have won a European Cup had that been the case. So yeah, I think it's one of those things that it is what it is. I think it's difficult to now cap it. I think if you did cap it, it's got a real potential to weaken the strength of the Premier League, especially in terms of its strength in Europe. And I just don't really believe. I don't understand why the Premier League would want that to happen, given it's got a really successful product. Why would you want to adjust that? It doesn't make any sense. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. George Bainbridge, I'm going to ask this question because I'll end up losing it again. He keeps saying, how long before Joe Linton is regarded as our greatest ever midfield player?
George, he already is. He already is. He's incredible. Big Joe. Nah, in all seriousness, he's had an incredible time of things recently. It was fantastic to see him scoring a lovely goal in training for Brazil and mixing it with all those like high-end players. It was really good. I think if there's a lad that deserves it for the effort that he's put in, for the commitment that he's shown, and the real steel and grit that he's really had to grit his teeth to get through some periods as a player at Newcastle United. And he's through that now, and he's reaping the rewards of his hard work. And I think it's beautiful to see. Actually, like I said on this show previously, I've never been bothered about players getting international call-ups. Sometimes you think, it's nice to see them rewarded. Callum Wilson was maybe a little bit last year, but Joe Linton, wow, that to me, having been overlooked for quite some time, to see him get involved. And the talk is that he'll make his debut in those games. Incredible.
Okay, Steve on Twitter said, hi Liam, is the summer budget £75 million as reported?
There isn't a set budget, no. So I've said this many, many times, and I'll continue saying it. There are regions, and I think Newcastle United aren't going to go out and spend 300 million, nor will they probably go out and spend 25 million. But there's a region in between where I think they may well spend, I've said it on here, between 100 or 150, depending on player sales, is what I would think, if they can. But like I say, that'll be supplemented with potentially a couple of departures. But I think if history and luck, that's what I've been told. And I always take that with a pinch of salt, because any amounts that have been said are always downplayed and underplayed, because they don't want for other clubs to have their eyeballs out, and I think we're just pretty much seeing a similar game played out here. I really wouldn't worry too much about what the budget is effectively. What Newcastle United need to do is go out and sign. If they go out and get 3 quality players to add to this squad, you'll already see, because Anthony Gordon will come into the squad, you'll then see 4 bits of that squad, the trimming of the fat will drop off effectively. So you'll see maybe a Gillespie, or you'll see maybe, I don't know, I'm just trying to think. You'll see 3 or 4, Jamal Lewis, Javier Manquillo. You'll see some of these players drop off the bottom of that list and be replaced by real quality that will probably go straight into the first team. Then the players that are in the first team now then drop onto the bench, and all of a sudden, that's how you build a squad, is you add smaller bits of quality. You don't often see, like Manchester City this summer, I'd be surprised if they go out, even though they're going to lose a couple of players, I'd be surprised if they go out and sign 4 or 5. Doesn't happen. If they want a right back, they'll go and sign a £60 million right back. If they want a left winger, they'll go and sign a £60 million left winger, if not more. Clubs at the top don't tend to do the wholesale change thing. Newcastle have probably jumped a level, but if you added 3 bits of quality plus Anthony Gordon into that 25-man squad, 4 bits of that most people will deem not good enough will effectively drop off that 25. And I bet you when you'll write it down, I know some people like doing those kind of things, but you write it down, you'll soon see that it starts to build quality. I think they essentially, the way I see it is, I think they thought they'd probably have another 2 windows before they got in the Champions League. And I think the squad would have been naturally 3 bits of quality this summer, another couple maybe in January, and then already the squad takes a totally different look. And then the summer before you go in the Champions League, you got a chance to have a real go at it. So FFP is a real thing. They've got to stay within their limits. This football club doesn't make a huge amount of money compared to the teams at the very top of the division. So yeah, I think they've got to be careful in some ways, and you don't want to become a higher end Everton. You really don't. I think, like I say, they're 2 windows probably ahead of where they thought they would be, and the squad will have to do a little bit of catching up. But yeah, I'm not really worried. I think a lot of people get so concerned about, if we haven't got 200 million to spend, we're going to struggle this year. Really? I mean, it doesn't work like that, man. It's about signing good quality players that have got good attitudes and fit into the squad. And I guarantee, and I don't know if was I doing this show? January, the first January window? I think I might have been still doing this show.
Yeah, I think you made a reappearance then, yeah.
I bet a lot of people were panicking when Eddie Howe was trolling about signing Dan Burn and Matt Target. I bet there was some people panicking. I bet they were thinking, well, this isn't what I expected. Ended up being, Target on loan was a good signing. Permanent deal didn't quite pan out. Dan Burn's been an incredible signing. Absolutely incredible signing. Flew under the radar totally last season because everyone says he's a left back, which isn't. But an incredible signing for the money that was paid. Nick Pope last season. Honestly, I remember having this debate with a lot of people. Like, is he really better than Dubravka? Is he that much better? Is he, is it this, that, and the other? Bloke cost 9 million quid. 9 million quid, and he took it away it was. So let's just chill out a bit when you're like, oh, but they're not going to sign that bloke who's 70 million quid that I've only ever seen on YouTube and I've never ever seen live. Don't worry about it. Honestly, don't worry about it. Because like I say, you probably wouldn't have signed off Nick Pope. You probably wouldn't have signed off Dan Burn either. So just chill. Just chill. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of been my motto over the years on this show.
Just chill. I'm sure there was a T-shirt at one point. Steve also wanted to know: are we targeting a striker in this window? Do you think? And is Felix Nechemia a target? Yeah, obviously, plays in the Bundesliga.
So this answer to the second question was one of the best Northeast journalists who's most connected when it comes to transfers, Luke Edwards. And I know he's not everybody's cup of tea. Like, I think he knows that himself. But I know he's not on this show to certain people who watch it. And they might not like us saying this, but he is one of the best connected there is in the Northeast. So if he says he's on the list, he's on the list. There's no need to doubt it. And what was the first one?
Are we targeting a striker?
I think in an ideal world, they would be signing... In an ideal world, they'd be signing another forward. That's kind of what they'd hope to do. Whether that's an out-and-out striker is another thing altogether. I think Isak is seen as the main lead striker next season with Callum Wilson, depending on how things go. I think they'll probably look to sign somebody who can, the João Pedro type, who could play anywhere across the three, if they can ideally do that. But if you go out and get a James Maddison, of course, he can play those positions as well, and it adds to the squad versatility. Although I'm led to believe, were he to come through the door, which isn't certain, by the way, but were he to come through the door, he would be seen probably in the Joe Linton, Willock, Longstaff positions.
Okay, Paolo was asking any news on any more sponsorship for Newcastle. Obviously, we know that Sealer have come in as front shirt, new deal for noon now, and a little bit of a change in sponsorship ideas with Fun 88. But been a lot going on off the pitch. Any more? Do you think in the offing? Do you think we'll see any more?
I haven't heard any whispers on that front, but common sense coming into it wouldn't surprise us if there was some minorish announcements on that front. For the time being, I don't think obviously the major ones are done really. So obviously with Premier League rules isn't the case in other divisions across the world and across Europe. You're only allowed 2 bits of sponsorship on your shirt, and they filled them up with really positive deals, I would say. You know, like you're talking about more than £30 million a season for those 2 deals, and it dwarfs the kind of money that they were getting previously, and is more fitting of a team that has, and it still is, has top 4 to 6, even though we qualified this year. We're now we still need to establish ourselves as a team that will consistently fight up there, and it's only once you've done that and you've got that legacy of top 6 finishes, which the likes of Tottenham, I know they've missed out this year, have got, and can consistently go to advertisers as part of deals and say, look where the last sponsor's kit was seen. It was seen in this stadium doing this. It was seen on this. It was seen getting to this cup final. It was seen on the biggest Premier competition in Champions League the year before that. It's an easier sell. It's not the same for Newcastle United quite yet, but it will get there. I've got no doubt it will, and we'll see. I mean, I've heard various rumours. There's even some suggestion the Seller deal is a 3-year, which would kind of tie into the idea that that's when the big deals would potentially come, even bigger deals, potentially 3 years down the line. But look, let's just enjoy the ride, man. We'll get to where we want to be. I think if anybody needed any persuasion that the people who own our football club don't mean business, it's just look at how they're trying to transform the landscape of football in the Middle East now, and they will transform the landscape of football in the Middle East. And look how Newcastle United will be a part of that as well, because the Saudi League will be seen as a kind of entertainment to captivate a very young domestic audience. But the idea is to push Newcastle United as the football club that everybody else should follow, against Real Madrid's, against PSG's, Liverpool's, and Manchester City's.
Okay, plenty of questions coming in the chat now. I think we've managed to get through all the ones on Twitter, all the ones we could read. Rosie, to be honest, no, neither me and Liam are up for trouble. That's one of those spam things that we got sent, Liam. I'll let you have a look at it anyway later on. Just don't click on anything. Okay. Stephen Kennedy says, we're all wondering about the transfer budget, but how much will the women's team get to be able to compete in the higher division, do you think?
I have no idea. I've not seen or heard of any conversations in relation to that, but let's not beat around the bush here. The women's team needs significant investment to get even up to the levels where they're getting up to now. It was great following the journey, and it's been brilliant following the journey, but we're talking about at the moment, and it will change, at the moment we're talking about a reasonably low level of football in the women's game, and they want to get right to the very top, which we've seen there's a huge disparity between the teams at the top in this country in women's football and the ones just slightly below that. So it's going to take a lot of investment to get there, but I don't know anything about the figures involved. I can't lip read.
I'm on mute. Good one, Liam. Good one. You got it. Liam's thoughts on the badge stitching controversy. Oh, dear me. This is one of those, every week you always get a subject where you go, oh, because I do 7 shows a week and I know I'm going to have to discuss this in every show. This really is something which is blowing up on social media. And I've done a pre-record with Ross for tomorrow morning and for tomorrow evening, sorry. And you know what? I just genuinely think this is the kind of thing which we would never have heard of, Liam. We would never have heard of before social media. People would never have given this a second thought. The only way this would have made the news is if somebody had written to the Shields Gazette or the Sunday Sun or whatever, and the editor had decided to put it in as a letter, and given a star letter and sent them £25 and a Shields Gazette pen. I mean, this really is a social media thing. What's your thoughts in this? I've seen people outside the ground. I've seen some people going back with the shirts. Stitching controversy, it's been called. I've compared it to other tops. I can't see what the big furore is about. It's always
look, Steve. Let's be brutally honest about it. It's stitched. It's not like I'm not massively. I can't look. You can be critical of the Castore stuff for a lot of things, but not stitching. It actually says United IT with the top of the N, the top of the T, a bit of the top of the I. It's United. It's not like what's. I just think people are determined to get really pedantic about. I hate Castore and I don't particularly like it. I'm brutally honest with you. They've blown it out the park with this kit, this 80s throwback kit. I think it's incredible. Looks great with a black and white sponsor on it, of course, as well. Makes a big difference. I'm just not going to get all that pedantic about a little bit of stitching here and there. Stitch badges can look crap at times, but they look better than stick-on badges. So, if you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. If you've got complaints about what it is, don't bother. But for me, I think it's just. I think people are dead keen to jump on bandwagons at times, and I think the Castore thing, because everybody's hoping it comes to an end in the not too distant future. I think everybody's just willing to criticise. If you're genuinely that person so unhappy with the stitching, my only advice to you would be take it back and see if you can get a better one. But I'd be surprised if you get a perfect stitched badge. Because look, you're right, Castore aren't the best kit provider that I think this football club should have. But they've made a bloody good kit this time. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the others are as good, by the way. I'm not sure the away is as good. I'm led to believe. But I'm told the third one is really good. So we'll wait and see.
Well, I've got to be honest, mate. I'm happy with it, and it sounds like a stitch up to me, says Mark Todd. Yeah, look, it's a really nice strip. Yeah, you buy it. If you don't like it, take it back. It's as simple as that, really. But I think it's a much ado about nothing. I really, really do. But we'll move on from that quite quickly. Blue Rhythm Boy also asked, "Are Villa a threat?" They've got Tielemans, we were also linked with. They look like they're on the up. I mean, they had a great end to the season. They've got European football as well. They're going to have to deal with it just like Newcastle United, Arlene.
Yeah, I just think the Thursday night thing, if you've got a strong enough squad, the Thursday night thing's a myth, being brutally honest. It's just a Thursday, Sunday instead of Wednesday. Saturday, it's not really any different. What I would say about Tielemans, Yuri Tielemans hasn't become a bad player overnight. That's what I would say about that. I think he's a really good signing for Aston Villa, depending on how they play him and what system they have. What I do say, though, is I don't see how he would have been a good signing for Newcastle United because he doesn't fit the way that they want to play. And that's very much what I've said about James Ward-Prowse as well, that I don't quite see how he would fit in Newcastle's team. Not that I think they're going to go for him. But there's certain players that fit systems and they're ones that didn't really seem to fit for me. But I think they've got a good manager, really good manager, the number one choice for the manager here, and he turned it down. Unai Emery, a serial European winner. We've seen West Ham win that competition this season. I think Aston Villa will go well. They've probably got a better team and a better squad than Aston Villa, than West Ham have. So I would be surprised if Aston Villa drop off like West Ham did. And I think they'll be in there or thereabouts. Good home side, good record, play really good stuff, well organised, good manager, good squad. There's a lot to like about Aston Villa, apart from the fans and the way they went home with Newcastle.
Yeah, I think Villa will be there or thereabouts, but as I say, it's going to be an interesting, interesting season next season for all those teams that have managed to qualify for Europe. It depends who they get, which players they bring in. Okay, any information, says Mr. Anderson, on the 14 or 15-year-old lad we apparently signed for 200k? I did go over this, I'm sure, on a previous show. Do you know who he's talking about, Liam?
I can't remember the name, but yeah, it sounds like it's a deal. It's getting done for the future. You'll see 3 or 4 deals like that. I would imagine that most will probably fly under the radar. The odd one will pop up, but there'll be lads like that getting signed left, right, and centre by the club. But like I say, that's the medium term stuff. Lad of 14, 15. I mean, realistically, if he's good enough, he's going to be in and around loan status in 3 to 4 years, and then first team stuff in 5 to 6. It's long term thinking, really. Newcastle United, and again, we haven't seen really a lot of that. We did see a little bit of it for stretches under Ashley, signing random foreigners from places, quite young ages, your Haris Vukic's and players like this. But no, I think there'll be a more sustained effort on that front from the football club now.
Liam, have you bought the new home top?
No, I'm skint. I don't get paid till Thursday, so I am considering getting it. I got it last year. I'm not a football kit buyer. I'm really not. I hadn't bought a football kit since I was probably late teens. I hadn't bought a football kit, and I bought the one last year. Couldn't resist, and I think I'll probably end up doing the same this time around.
Any idea for the date for the away and the third kit?
No. I knew the date for the home one because of its significance, but I don't know anything about the other two. No, I don't know. Probably best off checking to see what kind of the time frame was last year between the different shirts, and you might get a little bit of an idea.
Okay, thoughts on this one? Tom Dixon says, question for Liam, is there anything about ASM wanting to stay and play Champions League football for Newcastle? Lots of rumours flying around about this one today, actually.
Sorry, I haven't seen those rumours. I think the ball is very much in Alan St. Maximin's court. I think if he wants to stay here and play Champions League football and be a starter at Newcastle United, he's got all the talent to do so. But it's ultimately up to him. And like I've said previously, Eddie Howe was very clear on that. I think, was it the Chelsea press conference? I think it was the last game of the season press conference. And he said, Alan St. Maximin, it's entirely up to him. If he wants to come back, and he was hidden here at his fitness, by the way. If he wants to come back fit and firing, with that extra yard back that he lost last season, with that, leaning down and fitting into a system, then I think Alan St. Maximin is a real weapon that you can have going into a Champions League and Premier League campaign. But it's up to him. It's up to him. And I don't know how he gets there. I don't know what he's lost, how he's got to this point, how he got these injuries. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of why Eddie Howe's pointing at that, but I can only read what I hear and see. And there's something up there that needs fixing, but it's up to St. Maximin to do that. And he's worked hard to get this football club out of some sticky patches in the past. It'd be a shame not to see somebody like that get a chance, realistically. But also, you have to bring into play the idea he's probably the most saleable asset that they have, and one that they can afford to probably lose. Up there, potentially, with somebody like, Jamal Lascelles or Martin Dubravka, or somebody that you might think you can get a few million for. But the ones that you might get decent money for are Almiron and St. Maximin. And the football club need to decide if budgets are tight, do they sacrifice some players who aren't necessarily starters, but they know they can get good money for, to see if you can sign a starter and improve your situation in that way. It's going to be an interesting summer, no matter what happens. And St. Maximin, you feel at this early stage, will play an integral part in that. Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. Click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99, or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, nufcmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is underway. 150 tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10, and you can get them now from nufcmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from nufcmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and Friends, the class of 84, is on at the Town Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Town Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000. Okay, halfway through the show, Liam, you asked me to send you this, and it is Newcastle World. Scan and sign up for our free NUFC newsletters. And as we can see on there, there is a QR code. So tell us about this. What is this, Liam?
Yeah, so just the little QR code. Just get yourselves that's the little newsletters that we do, which are daily things. And it'd be good we're trying to up the sign-ups. You get anything, you can sign up for Newcastle United specific news. You can sign up for wider news. And you can also sign up. I do a weekly personal sort of email out to everybody, a letter from the editor. So, yeah, if you're kind of interested in all that stuff, then just scan this QR code while it's on the screen, and you get the option to sign up. You just put a couple of details in, and it's just the type of thing that drops into your inbox via email. It's not spam. You won't get hit with loads. You'll get hit with, if you sign up for the news, you'll get one a day. You sign up for the football, you normally get about 3 a week. And you sign up to the editor's letter, which is my personal one, you get 1 a week on a Friday. But really good to try and get as many people as possible to sign up to that, because ultimately, as we all know, we're all trying to make a living in this game. And yeah, so this QR code here, if anybody who wants to sign up, just give that a scan now. And there it is again. Love that.
Okay. Great stuff, mate. Thanks for that. We'll give that a plug each show that we do with Liam. Get back to your questions now. And Ryan Fraser has 2 years left on his contract. So would it be in the club's best interest to take a financial loss on this? A lot of people scratching their heads because talk about a loan deal and going out on loan. Some people are saying they should just pay him off, but Newcastle, as well as incomings and doing things correctly, like to do things correctly with outgoings, don't they?
It doesn't make any sense to pay him off, because they could, if they put him to he's on a huge wage. I think I've said that on here before. He's on a huge wage. And it would take somebody with reasonably deep pockets, and I don't think there's anybody like that in the Championship, to take him off Newcastle United's hands. And there is absolutely no point in Newcastle United trying to pay him up as well. They're better off trying to find someone who will at least pay some of his wages, which is probably what would happen should he go to Norwich, as it happened with Isaac Hayden last season. And Isaac Hayden had an obligation as part of his deal, but had a horrendous season with injuries. And unfortunately, Norwich failed to get promoted back to the Premier League at the first time of asking. So that deal failed. But I can imagine it wouldn't be a surprise to see something very similar put together for Ryan Fraser. Look, he's a player. If he's got his head right, he's a player who can offer a lot to a team in the Championship, a lot actually, and could still offer a lot in the Premier League. But is his head right? Who knows? We don't know how much this experience has affected him. He's done quite a few years here, and hasn't really felt wanted, hasn't really felt like he wanted to be here. Be interesting to see what he comes back like. But he's a good player. He's a good player. Just always question marks about what's between the ears.
Hills from Port Vale is the signing. We did speak about him the other night. Yeah, I've got a cat going backwards and forwards, Liam. That's why I have to keep muting, because it keeps meowing. It's a running battle between me and the cat sometimes this late at night. Yes, the Port Vale boy, Mills, that we spoke about, Miles, that we spoke about the other night. And does Liam know if Rick from Sunderland is going to join Newcastle? Lots to talk about that, wasn't there, last season about Rick? He's, seems to have gone quite quiet on him. I'm not sure what's happening to him down at Sunderland.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened with that one. A lot of talk 3 months ago that it was as good a done deal as could possibly have been. I actually haven't heard anything on that front for a little while now, so I'll maybe do a little bit of chasing and checking with people who know slightly better than me. But I'll let you know if I know anything.
Thanks, Steve. As Amanda said, we're looking for a feeder club. Sunderland would be a good shout. Helios seem to have gone quiet with the SM. I don't follow that situation at all. I've heard of Helios, of course, but I don't really follow any of that. Alan says, Liam, do you get angry when people say local football journalists don't know what's going on in Newcastle, for example, with transfers? Or should we just wait and watch Sky Sports?
Do I get angry? Nah, not really, but I know a lot of people who work on this patch who have very, very good contacts. Such is the nature of the game, you're not going to get everything. You're not always going to get everything. And some people have better contacts than others. And I think you probably work that out from the people that you find on social media. Anybody, having worked at the coalface, not necessarily as much now in the editorial roles, but it's not hard to get a sniff of a transfer story and over-egg it, write it up. It isn't, I know it happens and it has happened. It's not hard to get a sniff of it if you look around in the right places. But there are certain people, and I'll let you make your own minds up on this, certain people, when they say things, it matters because you know that they're well sourced. And I think I don't even need to say who I think that is and who I know it is. Those people, I think everybody can make their own mind up out there. With regards to transfers, whether that be throughout the takeover process, whether that be with owners, whether that be about investment, whether that be about new sponsors, there's always going to be people with better contacts than the next one. I don't get angry when people say local journalists known out. It's not the case. Doesn't really matter. And being brutally honest, if somebody on Twitter says you're known out, but they've clicked on the story anyway, don't really care. You've done your work for the day. That's fine. You clicked on the story and you interacted with it, which I think interaction is a good thing. Even when you get nutters on social media, sometimes going a bit over the top. But yeah, I think I don't really get offended by people saying you know nothing, because when you know something and you write it, whether people believe it or not, it's entirely up to them. And I don't think people make things up. I do think sometimes people might add bells and whistles to certain things at times, but when somebody writes something, they know it. And should you just wait for Sky Sports? Look, Sky Sports have got one of the biggest teams covering transfers you could possibly imagine. So they do get a lot, and so they should, because they have a lot of people. The people you see on the TV, is only part of the transfer team that's working behind the scenes at Sky Sports. It's vast.
Okay, Tom Dixon's got a couple of questions. He says, when will Newcastle announce any more friendlies? He says, obviously, we've got Rangers away. I mean, it'll come, won't it?
Yes. Yes, it will. It will. There'll be a few close to home that people can get themselves to if you're missing your football out there. One, I can't give the details of exactly what they are. I'm just trying to give you a bit of a taste of what they might be. There's one, which will be a first one that might be open to the public. Then there's obviously the America ones after Rangers, and then there'll be something to really look forward to after that as well, which will make for quite a weekend.
All right. And are Newcastle really interested in Harry Maguire, do you think?
Not to my knowledge, no. Not to my knowledge, no. And I don't actually, I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't think it would be the worst sign in the world, but I think considering the wages that he's on and the place he would take within our squad, I just don't think it's a goer, really. No.
Okay. Will Hayden have a second go at Norwich, says David Cook?
Don't know. He won't have a second go at Newcastle. That's absolutely certain. There are certain players we've talked about on these shows recently. Jeff Hendrick, Matty Longstaff, Isaac Hayden. They're Newcastle United players, but that's them done. There's certain players that will then fall into that category again this summer. Jamal Lewis likely being one. Potentially a couple of others who will be moved on in one way, shape or another for various reasons. But yeah, I don't see a way back for Hayden at Newcastle. But he just had he had a really, really rough deal. But it comes to injuries last season, I wish him all the best. Same with Matty Longstaff as well. These lads, I hope they get recovered because they're good, solid professionals and did jobs for Newcastle United at various times in tough times as well.
Sutty says, if you could pick one Newcastle legend to play in the current squad as the missing piece in the puzzle, who would it be?
It's tough, that, isn't it? You got any ideas, Steve?
Peter Beardsley for me.
So in this team where you're playing him, where you're playing him?
You could play him anywhere. You play in a variety of positions. He would play wide, which, to be honest, isn't his favourite position. Yeah. You could play him. Supporting the striker, or you could play him in midfield. You could play him in the middle. Peter Beardsley, is still capable of playing now. And the guy was such a talented player both times at Newcastle, and went on to win a lot of honours. He had the experience as well. I think if we could find somebody like Peter Beardsley to play now, I'll be over the moon. I would never suggested Madison if Peter Beardsley was still available. You're
right. And now you think about what Beardsley, given that he's probably the most naturally talented footballer that's ever donned a black and white shirt, it's difficult to argue that you wouldn't put him in a team somewhere. Of course you would. I'm just thinking in my head, it'd be nice to see, look, let's put Isak on the left. Let's just side Big Al up front. Just think of the goals, man. I was trying to, in my head, I was thinking, how do we maybe upgrade the 8th position a little bit? I was thinking, get Rob Lee in there. Rob Lee maybe starts scoring a few goals in that. He would suit that role, wouldn't he? He would suit that position quite well. But I think it's pretty hard to look past someone like Shearer or Beardsley, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, any one of those entertainers could probably fit in. There's no doubt about it. You know what I mean? It would be an easy slot in. Can Liam put the QR code on Twitter post, please? Because I watch this on my phone, he says. So if you can do that, that would be great. Kevin says, Rangers versus Newcastle, another Castore derby. I watched the transfer show last night and it was dross, says Tim. But there's not much to talk about on Sky at the moment. It's all speculation, mate, unfortunately. So there you go. Who would be Liam's number one realistic signing this summer?
I can't say a name really, but I think think they need I like where they're looking. They're looking to sign somebody who could unlock doors. And I said it on the show last week, it looks like he's probably too expensive, but Dominic Szoboszlai, I think, would be. He looks to me, I'm not a Bundesliga expert, but like I say, I've done my YouTube research. And I think looking at the type of players, I've seen him in a couple of games when I was flicking through the channels last year. Do like him. I think he'd be a really solid addition. Looks like he'd score all kind of goals from all kinds of distance. A bit of pace, could beat a man. I think he looks like the man to me.
Okay, where do you think Kane will end up, says Blue Rhythm Boy?
Tottenham.
You think he stayed at Tottenham?
I've got a feeling he will, aye.
Okay.
Do you not?
I think he'll move on. I do. I don't think he's going to be too happy with a new appointment. I just can't. The only thing that could keep him at Tottenham in the Premier League is Shearer's record. But he may end up staying at Spurs because Levy won't let him leave.
Well, that's the thing that I was going to say is I think it's a much easier one I think Kane possibly stays this summer, and he's out of contract next summer. So it'll be a decision if Tottenham are really underperforming, 10th or 11th in the division, look like not getting back in the Champions League, all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Then any money, any big contract to throw at him probably isn't going to work. But if Tottenham are third top, they're doing really well. Come January, it wouldn't surprise if he signed another deal and then went on and did Shearer's record, try to win something at Tottenham. But I don't know. You never know with these deals. It could turn out that something big could happen. But I kind of feel like this Real Madrid search and Kane being the top one, I think Mbappe has always been the top target in the forward line at Real Madrid, which is where Kane wouldn't really fit. But look, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see, from a spiteful football fan's perspective, I'd love to see Real Madrid slap 100 million down, Levy let him go, because there's nothing surer than Tottenham will probably waste that 100 million, and I think they'll go into free fall. Without his guaranteed 25 Premier League goals a season, it's irreplaceable. You honestly, you would have to spend 100 million back on one player to even think about adding that type of goals to a team. He's almost irreplaceable.
I believe the fixtures are out Thursday, Alan, not tomorrow. But he says, who do you want first, Liam, in the first game? I said Man City when I was asked this last time around. I'd love to get Man City. Ideally at home. You want to play the best right at the start of the season, try and catch them off guard.
I'm just kind of hoping it's not Bournemouth away. So
Luton away.
Luton's going to be a nightmare, because it's such a small ground. I don't know what they're going to do with it. But, I mean, Bournemouth's great for tickets. There's no problems. But we've been sending 4 people around these places in recent times. I don't think we'll get that for Kenilworth Road. I just don't think we will, but who knows? So, I hope it's not something like that. If it's Luton away on the first day, I mean, it'll probably get moved to the Friday night or something, won't it? Something daft like that. I want to get off a good start. So give me Nottingham Forest at home again. Happily take that.
Yeah, Castore Derby, Newcastle versus Rangers. Yeah, Tony Green has been given as a potential. Didn't see him play, and obviously had a very short career, cut short by injury. But yeah, those who saw him said he was superb. Bellingham, Kane, and Mbappe fronting real. That is scary, says Kevin. Keith Gray says 4 years I sat in Africa having dinner with the Dutch family. The 2 boys, 11 and 14, played for Ajax. They asked me my favourite player. I said Peter Beardsley. I turned to Dad and said, why have we not been told about him? Interesting story, Keith. When will we likely see the retained and transfer lists that other clubs have already posted? Asks BT. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
No, I don't know. I think it'll be imminent, though. I would imagine it'd be imminent. I don't think there's no surprises on there, so I don't really doesn't really make much of a difference to what's going on. But it'll be imminent.
Yeah, Sunderland versus Newcastle won't happen in a pre-season friendly. I can't see that at all. The Northumbria police would not be happy with that. I do not think. Dave says, Liam, do you think we would struggle next season if we don't sign a few players and we get a few injuries? I think that would be the case with most people, wouldn't it? And let's face it.
I mean, shares a question, Dave, but it's quite a common sense answer to this. If any team gets a few injuries, they're likely to struggle because you've got a team for a reason. But yeah, I think we'll see. I think we'll see a few solid additions. But if key players in any team outside of a Manchester City, maybe, probably Manchester City alone. We've seen it with Arsenal when they dropped off with a few players injured. If any team gets injuries, they're going to struggle. So Newcastle, realistically, by and large, last season had a quite good season when it came to injuries. They didn't have any major ones that were out big periods of time. A little bit of a flurry at the end of the season, but to be expected after the efforts put in. But I think, it would affect any team. And I think it'll be unfair to pick on Newcastle and say that for that reason, because there aren't many teams in world football who can carry 22 starters. You have to win things to be able to carry players who would start in most teams, like Manchester City have. You have to win things on a regular basis to carry 22 starters, which is 2 teams effectively. Most teams don't have anywhere close to that, even teams on the fringes at the top. So any team that gets injuries is going to struggle.
Liam, are Luke and Craig trying to do the club a favour, do you think, by playing down the transfer kitty? There has been, a lot of people saying that. And we went in depth in this on the Amigos. It's not really £75 million to spend. Lots of different things happen in the transfer window. Newcastle do have to keep an eye on financial fair play. But I think you and I both said we expect Newcastle to probably spend in the region of 150 million again in some way, shape or form in this transfer window, and probably bring in something between 3 and 5 players.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it will be 3 to 5 players. I think they're just going to have to be really clever what they do. I'd be surprised if we see any outlays like what we've seen on Alexander Isak. That seems to be the outlier of a deal that they've done, but it surprised everybody this time last year by doing something like that. I'd be more surprised this year if they did. But I do think they're going to target 2 to 3 real quality additions, and they're going to have to work out how much they've got left to play with to add to the rest of that. But yeah, I think do I think they're playing that game? I don't think they'll be playing the game. I think the football club might be downplaying what they've got, but they could also be being totally honest. History, though, suggests that they do tend to downplay what they've got for very obvious reasons. They do not want their eyeballs taken out by teams elsewhere, which has consistently teams have tried to on the continent and at home. So yeah, I think there's probably a little bit more there than's been said. That's kind of the impression that I had, but I don't think it's a whole lot more.
Roger asking how soon can we expect a first team signing, Liam? I mean, July the 1st when the transfer window opens. I do believe that if James Maddison, let's say just hypothetically, James Maddison was going to be the first signing, he's waiting for, his good lady to give birth to twins. I mean, he's going to have his hands full in the next couple of weeks, one would imagine. So, it depends who their first choice is. Is it Szoboszlai? Is it James Maddison? Newcastle won't be rushed, and they won't be in a rush. They'll do the business. They'll do it right. They'll do it in the way that they've done the last 3 windows. And again, I just trust the process, and using your expression, just chill.
Yeah, I don't know when the first team signing will be. I don't believe that they're close at this moment in time, but you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So we'll wait and see. I mean, it could happen quite quickly. There was a lot of deals actually came out of the blue last year, barring the Sven Botman one, which was probably the worst kept secret around. There was a lot of other deals that kind of came out from under the radar, and I think we could well see that again this summer. So I wouldn't get too panicky about when it is. As long as they get a couple in before pre-season, then they'll be in a much stronger position. But the way Eddie Howe works, even if they do sign 3 quality players, it would be no shock, to see that Eddie Howe picks the same team, that the strongest team of squad that he already has, rather than bringing new players into that team. He does like to take his time on bringing players in. See Sven Botman for that one. See Alexander Isak for that one. Bruno Guimaraes, took him 6 or 7 games trying to really bring him into the team. So I think even if he does sign 2 or 3 quality players, it would be no surprise if, say, it was a Maddison who comes in. It might be a couple of games before he actually gets in the team, because I think he's quite loyal and would trust the players that he ended last season with. Not necessarily the teams that ended last season, but the strongest team that we had last year from that group.
Yeah, somebody saying there they're thinking the Mecha could be the first signing tomorrow. It's Kevin. I just can't see it happening tomorrow, but you never know. Do fans get carried away with signings? A season of Eddie's coaching and a year of experience makes the teams better. Anyway, yeah, we have to consider squad size for Champions League, but relax. That seems to be the message from today's show. Relax. Alan says, Liam, we did have injuries. Wilson, Isak, Willock, Longstaff were out for months in some cases. That's how good a season we've had under Howe. People say we didn't have injuries, but we did.
Well, no, so what I would say is you had 2 centre-halves, which is very rare. You had 2 centre-halves that played a full season, a full back 5 unit that played a full season. They did end up getting a couple of injuries in the midfield department. And yes, Wilson had a little one at the start and dropped the form. And Isak had Isak was probably the longest term and worst injury. But if you go through the whole of the rest of the Premier League, there'll not have been many who had a full back 5 goalkeeper and 4 who were available for 98% of their fixtures. Just doesn't happen. So I do think in some respects they had quite a good season when it comes to injuries. Sean Longstaff played virtually every minute until he got injured towards the end. Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton played virtually every game. Missed very few. I think Bruno maybe missed 5 or 6. Of course, Maximin had his injuries and Isak had their injuries. By and large, everyone else was pretty fit.
Tim, interesting question from Tim. He says, what's the timeline that the club scouts track players generally? We've just acquired a scout purely for South America.
As long as they need to. As long as they need to. I mean, that's if you've got a scout, it isn't. So you've got a scout in South America. It isn't not necessarily always him getting tasked with saying, you need to go and see this player. He'll be watching games. He'll have a good knowledge and idea on the players. It'll almost be, there's certain ways that go about things. It might be that we're looking for a player in that position. It may be we're looking for these 3 or 4 players, assess them and look and see which ones we think are best. There's various different ways of doing it. But the key is bringing people in who've got a good working knowledge of those areas or those departments, or sometimes it's positions. It'll be a positional thing that they'll sign people from, because scouting isn't always the way it used to be. It's not always the guy who they're like, the guy with a notepad and the big coat and a flat cap on, and he's not taking notes from a training ground or from an under-23 game somewhere. A lot of scouting, and a lot of clubs do it this way, is done. It's video analysis. There are scouts who do primarily pick players on video analysis. So there's a good mix of the way things are done. There isn't really a hard and fast rule of it.
What about Arda Gula, says Jamie?
I think I was asked this last week. I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about it at all. But it could be one that I don't know. I couldn't really say.
Yeah, it's not difficult to spot good players. It's getting them to sign that's the harder part, says John. Suddy says, a great show, lads, as always. The thing I like is you keep it real. I watch other podcasts. There's a lot of wasting time on talking about hypothetical players who we won't sign. That's very kind of you to say that. Time for one more question. Tim says, what's your favourite restaurant in the Toon, Liam?
Dead easy. I think for me, it's the best restaurant in the town. But if anybody hasn't been, definitely should. It's Kai Kai. If you love a bit of Indians, like proper Indians with a bit of a different twist, unbelievable. It really is.
There you go. There's Liam's cookery tips, and I'm sure we went through some kind of mad scenes originally where people were asking us all those questions. Luckily, we've come to the end, so don't start that tonight, chat. Newcastle World, scan and sign up for the free newsletters. And UFC newsletters by using that barcode. Liam will, of course, stick it out there on his social media for you to see. Newcastle World, scan and sign up for Newcastle World's free email newsletters. Liam, as always, absolute pleasure to spend a little bit of time with you, chewing the fat about Newcastle United. Look forward to seeing you again next week, mate. Take care.
See you next week.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.